This is SGD 285 at Pitt Community College. This is Tim Bivens. Today we're going to talk about UML and how it relates to software engineering, and specifically how to use StarUML to create a class diagram. First off, what is UML? UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. As the definition goes, it's a standardized modeling language consisting of an integrated set of diagrams developed to help system and software developers with specifying, visualizing, constructing, and documenting the artifacts of software systems, as well as for business modeling and other non-software systems. Basically, UML is a system of diagrams that allows software engineers to visualize these complex systems that they're creating before they try to code them. It's always best to try to diagram a system before you try to code it. That way your code comes out cleaner and less error prone. And that's the reason for this whole system. There are many types of diagrams in the UML specification, but there are only a few that I've actually personally used. And I can't swear that all of these are even used in game dev situations, but I imagine that in large companies with super complex games, they probably are. The most common are class diagrams, use case diagrams, and state chart diagrams. This lesson, we're going to focus only on class diagrams. So class diagrams in the Unified Modeling Language is a type of static structure diagram that describes the structure of a system by showing the system's classes, their attributes, operations, and their relationships among these objects. Right. A class consists of a class name followed by the class attributes, properties, and then by a class method. And now we're going to open up StarUML and kind of show you around creating classes and the basic ways of connecting them. I'm going to fire up StarUML now. And this is an evaluation version of this because I don't feel like paying for it. I don't use it enough to pay for it. So click the Evaluate button. This will come up every time you open it up unless you buy it, right? But just click Evaluate and you should be fine. There's a limited number of diagrams you can have per file if you're just using evaluation purposes. I think it's like 2, but for what we're doing, this will be fine, right? So this is StarUML here. All right. It should land you in the class diagram by default. So you should see class, interface, association, etc. down here on the left, right? So we just want to create a class. So we're going to click on class, and then you can click out here and you can just drag across. This is your class, right? So let's just create, let's think of something that would be standard in a game, right? Maybe a player character, right? Is your most basic class for, like a role-playing game, right? Here you'll see the name of the class right here. Then you'll see a couple of lines. This top line is for your attributes. The bottom is for your methods or your actions, as some call it, right? So the easiest way to add, you say add, right click, say add, and you'll say attribute, right? And then you double click on this attribute and change it. The first thing we're going to say, we'll say name, right? Name. Right? We say add, attribute. And let's see, we'll say XP for experience points. And let's say HP for hit points. And that's kind of your basic attributes for a player character. You probably have speed, dexterity, all that stuff too, right? Now we need to have a few actions that a player character would have, right? And so we'll say operation, right? Actions, operation, methods are all the same thing. Note there are a ton of other things here. Some of these I don't even know what they are, right? Most of them I could probably give you a lot of them I could give you a definition for. Some of them I would have to look up myself. But we're going to say operation, and this is going to be, let's see, what's walk, right? And put parentheses because that is important, all right? And we'll say add operation, and this one's going to be attack, right? Say add operation, say run. And you keep doing this for all your operations as you need, right? And this is resizable, etc., right? Now, what's another class we might have? So you keep adding classes to your class diagram. So we're going to say class, we come over here, and we'll say enemy, right? And enemy add attribute, and they can have a name too, right? And they can have XP. Well, I don't know if they'd have XP really. Would they? They definitely have HP. And that's fine for now. But see, enemy is a basic class, and there's many different. You could have many different types of enemies in your game, right? So let's think of other types of enemies, and that we'll see the property of inheritance here, right? Because what type of enemy? Let's say an orc, maybe, right? So let's come out here. And we'll call this orc. Now, the idea of inheritance is that an orc is an enemy, right? When you think of inheritance, think of your father and mother, right? You have inherited traits from your father and mother, and you don't have to repeat those traits in inherited classes, right? So a generalization is the same as inheritance. So I'm going to put that in next here. So classes can have different types of relationships. And one way is called inheritance or generalization, right? If you think about a human is also a mammal, which is also a vertebrate, right? So a human is more specific than mammal. So mammal is a generalization. It's more a general term. There's more mammals on the earth than there are humans on the earth, right? So that's a more general term, right? And so inheritance and generalization is it's the same. They're interchangeable terms, right? So what we want to show that orc is inherited from enemy. So we're going to click on generalization here, and then we're going to click this little block, and we're going to drag it up to here, right? And you'll notice, boom, we have a little block that gives you a chance to describe this relationship. And I don't do this a whole lot, so let me see what's here. Public, protected. Oh, you can say whether it's public, protected, private, right? Or I think you can change that. Yep. Okay. What's that do? That's a package name. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. All right. So let's delete those. All right. So that shows that the orc inherits from enemy, right? But are there any attributes of orc that are different from the enemy, right? Let's just think maybe teeth, sharpness, or something. I don't know. If you can think of some more things. We'll say, and we'll add an operation like maul, right? Orcs like maul things, right? Don't they? All right. That'll be something specific. All right. And we could have another enemy, right? So let's have another enemy here, class, an archer or something, right? And add attribute, let's see, attack speed, right? And add operation ranged attack. And this is also a generalization right. Like that, right? And continue on with this process, right? Creating as many objects in your game that you can think of and how they're related to each other, right? Like archers shoot what, right? They shoot projectiles, right? Right? You have projectile here. And you can do this in any order, right? You don't have to throw all the attributes and methods in there at once, right? You can come back and do that later. Like projectile, I know that we're going to have different types of projectiles, so I can say class, let's see, arrow, right? I can actually copy and paste that because I want to do this right here. Flaming arrow, right? What would be something else? Let's see. Firebolt, maybe. I don't know. So all of these are projectiles. So they would be generalizations. Well, a projectile is a generalization of them, right? And if you want to do that several times, you can actually, I think, double click on that. Yeah, see, it locks it, so you can do that and do that, and then you just click off it. Right? All right, so these are generalizations. That's one type of association, right? Or so another common relationship is the association, which means the classes interact, but they aren't strictly related to one another, right? If we look at StarUML here, our projectile and archers, they own projectiles and they have to use them, but they're not related to the projectiles in any way. So what we have here is an association, right? And it's just a straight line, and you do this like that. And usually one archer can have as many projectiles as one. So you want to say 1 to n, right? Or I thought I could do that. All right, never mind. So that shows you a relationship, right? It shows that the archer and projectile are related, but that they're not, inherited in any way. One thing you can organize all these things like this, and let's see, I haven't done this in a while. Format. Alignment, there again. Align top, like so, right? And I can select these. Format, alignment, basically horizontally like that, right? And then that way. Right. Because you want your diagram to look as neat as possible, right? So now we have, what do we have? Eight different things here. You probably want some associated classes maybe with your player character, right? Right now we have 8, and the assignment calls for at least 10, right? If you can't come up with that many, if your game's really simple, explain that to me and I'll understand, but this should get you started anyway. Let me think. There are 2 other associate relationships that I should go over real quick. Aggregation. That is a relationship where you've just collected things, right? Classic example is an inventory, right? The things in an inventory are only related because they are in the same container, basically, right? So an aggregation means they're all together, but they're not necessarily related just by proximity, really, right? And then you have a composition. A composition is where you have unrelated parts that make up a whole, right? Like a car has many parts, right? The parts are related because they fit together to make one larger object, right? That's what a composition is, right? So a steering wheel isn't a car, right? So it's not related, it's not inherited from a car, right? But it's part of a car, so you would show it that way, right? And so think about these things. I'll come up with better examples. I just wanted to get something out there, kind of show you what's going on. I'll share this slideshow with you. I'll add to it as well. I apologize it's been so long in coming, but here it is. All right. Please email me with any questions you have. Don't stress too much, and we'll get through it all. All right.